Hi friends, Jen here with Serenity Hill Farmstead. Today I want to talk to you about herbs that you can use to help with pain. Everybody deals with pain throughout their life, some people more than others. And the herbs that I'm going to share with you today, that's the cat. She's going nuts today. The herbs that I'm going to share with you today are not an all-inclusive list. This would be an incredibly long video if I was talking to you about all the different herbs you could use for all the different types of pain. But some of these herbs will cover, general pain, and then some of them are going to be a little more specific. These are herbs that I use, that I have used, that I currently use, that help me get through my daily chronic pain of having an inflammatory arthritis. So let's get into that. The first one is California poppy. Now, California poppy is, I think, probably typically used, I hear it the most used as a sedative, as something to help with sleep, because it's very, very good at that. It helps kind of suppress, well, actually it regulates the central nervous system, but it helps calm you down. It helps regulate you so that if you're having anxiety, if you're having tension, if you're having pain, that you can actually get some rest. Now, I came across California poppy and I grow it because it's so helpful for sleep. But then I later on discovered all of the good things it can do to help ease pain so that you can sleep. Because that, for me, is one of my biggest issues. If you have a chronic condition that creates a lot of pain, you probably heard the term painsomnia, where you are in so much pain that you can't sleep. And even if it's not a severe pain that's going to take you to the ER, it's still annoying enough to keep you awake. And it's very difficult to get the rest that your body needs. Because if you don't get that rest, then your pain gets worse. There she goes again. She's lost her mind. So I use California poppy during the times where I'm flaring, if I'm having a particularly hard time, and I take that right around dinner time, and then I just kind of can relax and calm. My body can calm down, my nervous system can regulate, and then I can actually get some sleep. And California poppy is also really good at helping to calm the mind. If you have that kind of anxiety and tension that keeps your mind racing, this is another helpful herb for that too. And oftentimes for me, those things kind of go hand in hand. I end up having the pain and then it kind of spirals and then my mind gets going and then I can't shut it off. So even if the pain does calm down, my brain won't stop. So sleep doesn't happen. So California poppy is a good herb for that. Now, something to note too, because I know someone's going to hear poppy and think opioids and drugs and things like that. Now, it is in the same family. However, it does not have the opioid quality that the opium poppy has. It doesn't have that narcotic property in it. Some herbs actually do, like Jamaican dogwood, I think is the one that I'm thinking of, that actually does have a narcotic property in it. But California poppy does not have that narcotic property to it, so it does not operate the same way. The next one I'm going to mention is corydalis. And corydalis is a really good herb to take for all types of pain, but it is really specifically good for rheumatism, different types of arthritis, anxiety, sleep issues, and menstruation pain. And it's not just your menstruation pains, like just your cramps, but okay, women, you know the issues that you have with maybe sometimes some months it's like in your hips, sometimes when you have ovulation pain, or maybe it'll settle in your back sometimes. I know sometimes, like for me, I end up having a lot of hip pain during my cycles, and then you can have a lot of muscle aches and pains during that too. So this is a good herb that can help you with all facets of pain during your cycles. Okay, so I said 5 herbs, but I'm kind of gonna lump in 6 because the 2 that I'm about to talk about kind of work similarly and kind of affect the body very similarly. So that's meadowsweet and white willow bark. And white willow bark, I see a lot out there on YouTube about white willow bark, about making different things with it. You totally can, but white willow bark is better used in conjunction with other herbs. And meadowsweet should not be used in sick kids. And this is kind of a controversial thing. And I'm sure someone's going to ask me, well, what about kids in general? You're going to have to do your own research and make your own decision on that. I am never going to be like, yes, you should do this. I'm not going to be the one that's going to give you like the definitive, yes, this is what's right for you. That's only a decision that you can make. I can give some general pointers and general tips and things and share with you what I will do. But you are going to have to do your own research because only you know the specifics of your children and your family, if they're on medications, if they have any kind of history of anything, what their pain is from, what's going on with them. Like, there's so many factors to consider. You really just have to be familiar enough with the herb. No one should ever just hear somebody yapping on YouTube and then turn around and go do that thing. You really need to do your own research on these herbs. They're gentle, but they're incredibly powerful. So you really need to have your own personal knowledge from your own research going into something. But meadowsweet and white willow bark have something called salicin in it, which is kind of the base of where aspirin came from. But it doesn't give you all the nasty side effects like internal bleeding that aspirin can give you because it's a blood thinner. So, and it's an extreme blood thinner. So it can really cause some issues if you have bleeding, clotting factors, clotting disorders, or any kind of trauma or anything. It can just increase your bleeding. So, and not to mention all of the issues that it can have with bleeding in your gut. So we're talking about aspirin here, not the herbs. But meadowsweet and white willow bark both have that salicin in it, that aspirin, that generic artificial aspirin is derived from. And one of the issues that I have with those two herbs is that it takes so long for the effects to kick in. For pain relief, it takes about 6 hours for meadowsweet and up to 8 hours with white willow bark for it to kick in. So if you are anticipating yourself being in pain later on, then take it in the morning or, whenever you're going to need it. So if I'm anticipating myself having some serious pain in the afternoon, I can take it earlier in the day so that by the time I need it, it's not as intense. But I don't often do that. I will more often just use a white willow bark cream. Meadowsweet we can use for other properties, not necessarily for their pain properties, for the analgesic properties is what we call it. But they are two helpful pain relieving herbs that you could utilize. The next one has absolutely nothing to do with joint pain or headaches or anything like that. It's actually for your teeth, and that is spilanthes. And what you can do with spilanthes is if you have it fresh, you can take the blossom and you can start chewing it up. You can do it with the leaves too, and you can just chew up that herb, and it can provide this numbing feeling. If you're having tooth pain, it's really, really helpful. So I started growing spilanthes not intentionally. I felt called to do it, is what we're going to call it. I felt very called to grow it one year. I came across it. It was a new plant. I'm like, the toothache plant, that's interesting. Let's grow it. It looks really cool. And that's how we did it. And interestingly enough, that's when everything shut down for COVID. And I ended up needing serious dental work. And that plant kept my tooth from abscessing. Now, I still needed a root canal, but it kept it from abscessing. So I was making, I was chewing on the blossoms, and then I was making a poultice to keep on the area on my gums, on the outer and inner part of my gums. And I would use that as needed, which was daily. I was doing it daily, a few times daily. And I ended up not having any more gum pain on the inside or the outside of my gums. The tooth was still sensitive, but it wasn't as severe, and I could totally deal with it until I could get into the dentist. And he told me that he was very surprised that I did not abscess because I went so long without going in to have it fixed. We didn't have any choice. So what are you going to do? So spilanthes from now on is something that I grow. It's something that I tincture because apparently I've found out you can tincture this herb. It's incredible as a tincture too, because it only takes a couple drops and you get that same, my kids call it the firework plant because it tastes like, they say it tastes like little fireworks are going off in your mouth. And you can just put a few drops of that tincture around. It has other internal properties. You can take it internally, but for pain, we use it for teeth and for gum issues. And the really beneficial thing of it too, helping with tooth issues, is it's antibacterial, antifungal, and astringent. And of course, astringent means it helps pull the tissues together and assist with healing. So the last one I'm going to talk about is something I don't even grow. We forage for it. It's wild lettuce. Now, if you are going to be searching for wild lettuce, I'm going to encourage you to get a few different ways to identify this plant correctly. It's often misidentified. And if you misidentify it, some of the things that are lookalikes to it are not necessarily going to hurt you, but it could make you a little sick, and it could also give you absolutely no pain effects, like pain relief effects at all. But wild lettuce has this magical property in it, or this magical substance in it. In the stems, when you break it off, you'll see this milky substance. Now, you won't really find an abundance of that throughout the entire growing cycle of it. The best time to harvest it, and when we're in that season, now it's December, there's no wild lettuce right now. When we get into that season, I absolutely will show you how to identify it and how we use it. But just for the sake of conversation now, you will let this plant grow until it's flowering, and that is about its peak medicinal value. You know, when you're harvesting herbs, whether you're growing them or whether you're foraging them, it's important to get them at their peak medicinal value, because then you're going to get the most bang for your buck, I guess, when it comes to the herb. You're going to have the most potent properties. You're going to have the most valuable herb for your remedies, for your herbal medicine that you're creating. So you want this thing to grow to its fullest potential and to flower. And right around that time is when you can cut this plant down, and then you can make your herbal remedies, whatever you want to make with it. Now, I like to use wild lettuce the most is tinctures. When it comes to pain relieving herbs, I prefer tincturing, and I can put that in a cup of tea if I want, or I can just take it straight. A lot of the time when I'm in pain, it's from my AS, and I don't want to be standing here messing with tea. I just want to take it and go lay down, get all of my heat, because that's very soothing to my body. So get all of my heat stuff on me and just sit there and wait for it to take effect. I really like the tincture version of the wild lettuce too, because wild lettuce does not taste great. So adding that to a tea, it's not the worst herb by far. It's not like it's horehound, but wild lettuce definitely does have a super earthy flavor to it, and it's not real tasty. Because, you know, with any kind of lettuce, wild, you know, something that you purposefully planted, when it gets super mature and goes to flower, it gets very yucky. It's like super bitter, and not in a good way. And it just tastes very woody, and it's not good. So it's not really great in a tea, but as a tincture, it's fine. It tastes like a tincture. So you can just take it in something tastier, like in a cup of tea or in a shot of juice or water, or whatever you want to do with it. And one of the other telltale ways to tell that this plant is ready for harvest and at its peak medicinal property is when you break it and you get this white, milky, sticky substance from it. That is it's like the latex, it's like the milk of the plant. And that is where the pain relieving properties are. That's what makes wild lettuce so potent, is that sappy goodness in it, that milky latex that's in it. That is what we are wanting to capture. So if you harvest this plant too early or too late, you're going to miss that window, and it's not going to have the potency in it that it could. Now, there are some lookalikes for this plant. Make sure you have some really good plant identification tools. I like to use Picture This. It's an app that you can get on Android or on iPhone. And then I also use a Peterson's Field Guide. They make them for herbs. They make them for all sorts of different things, pretty much everything that you can think of. They also make them regionally. So you find the one that is in your region, and you should be able to find what you need. Now, something to note about wild lettuce, if you're going to use a wild lettuce extract or a tincture or anything like that, then you have to be a little careful with it and start very slow, because it can have some very like hypnotic side effects, and you can have some very, very vivid dreams, which can be an issue for some people. So just start really slow until you fully understand how wild lettuce is going to work for you, and if there's any possible side effects that are going to affect you. So while there are a ton more herbs that have analgesic properties in them, these herbs that I've shared today are what we have used and have worked really well for us, especially me. I'm the one that deals with the most pain in the whole family. I'm so lucky. But those have been super helpful for me. So I hope that maybe some of them can be helpful for you if you are dealing with chronic pain or even just occasional pain. You have something that you can add to your apothecary to help you through a hard time. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and shared it with someone else that could be blessed by it. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay up to date with what we put out. And we'll see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.